What up, watch peeps? Today we're going to take a look at a watch that was conceived at a bar over drinks, which we all know is where all the best ideas come from. Seriously though, it is a neat story born of frustration with a bartender that was wearing a Mickey watch, and the result is really something quite different. I did a Zoom call with the guys and they're super friendly, really nice dudes with a cool idea. Now this isn't a hardcore precision diving instrument. In fact, I might even consider it a fashion watch, and I don't mean that as a bad thing. Let's get into it and you can see what I'm talking about. I'm Pete and we are Chillin' with Watches. Wrist check. Wearing the Seiko SKX009. I'm wearing this a lot lately. I don't know if I'm just connecting with it or maybe it's just the time of year for Pepsi bezels. But today we're going to be taking a look at the 7 Sins Diver from Core Timepieces. Comes in this awesome ballistic nylon watch pod. These things are great. I love a single watch carrier. That is definitely something I'll reuse. Inside you'll find first the instructions. I think they give you a little bit of how to set the watch, about the water resistance, a little bit of background on the company. But then inside you will find your watch. And it comes on this supplied Seatbelt weave NATO. Oh, look at that signed keeper. And the buckle as well. Let's go over the basics real quick. So this isn't a small watch. It comes in at 42 millimeters. And if you're familiar with the Armada A2, you can think along those lines. It wears very similar to that. Now this quartz model I have here comes in 3 colors. There's a white, a red, and then this silver we have here. Now there's also an automatic, currently sold out, but that one comes in a blacked out PVD case and bracelet with a black dial. Super cool. Now the quartz retails for $250, but you can use my code CHILLIN50 for 50% off, bringing it down to an easy 125 bucks. I'll put the code in the description if you are so inclined. So the first thing you're going to notice on this watch is what I call the sin window over here at 9 o'clock in lieu of the day window. And that will be displaying one of 7 different sins. So one look at that and you know you're dealing with something a little different. And this is why I said I consider this watch to be maybe a fashion watch. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. What I mean is that this is clearly not a hardcore precision diving instrument. It's a watch that's meant to be a little fun and taken lightly. In fact, they first sold the watch at an art show, which I can totally see. So you gotta ask yourself, do you have too much pride to consider wearing a fashion watch? You shouldn't, but just saying that might incur me some wrath in the comments. But to my point of it being a fashion watch, you can see it has no minute track. There are just the hour markers, and they're just basic polished rectangles. You can see there's no problem with legibility during the day, but there is no loom. That for me is a bit of a miss, because look at these switchblade hands. Now could you imagine if those were loomed out? That would look so killer. Those hands are, you know, after the sin window, the next big draw on this watch. I just think that's really cool, combined with this red blood drop seconds hand. Now they said their decision to not loom these was not due to sloth, but it was an intentional decision as each colorway would have to be loomed differently and they wanted to avoid the inconsistency. Their big thing is embrace or rebel. That's kind of their slogan, meaning you can either embrace the sin of the day or use the watch as a bit of a moral compass and to be mindful of that sin for the day. So, for instance, if you're feeling a little greed, you can embrace it and buy that watch you know you don't really need. Do it. Or you can use this as a gentle reminder to be, well, mindful of your greed. As far as the design goes, we're looking at a Submariner style case and bezel. Let's see with the crown guards and just the way the grip is on the bezel. It's fully brushed, which I think is a good thing as it balances out some of its otherwise fashion tendencies. But don't be fooled, this watch has all the build related specs you lust after, and that many brands should envy. We're looking at a ceramic bezel insert. It has a flat sapphire crystal, screw down crown, and a whopping 300 meters of water resistance. So while it might not be a precision diving instrument, it's not a toy either. I like the framed sin window. I think that's just a really good execution there. It looks great. I love the red blood drop seconds hand and even the font they used on the red text there. Now there's extra 3 lines of text underneath. That may be a bit gluttonous. Now the case back has an old Buddhist saying on it that could be easy to misinterpret if you're not familiar with it, but in reading up about it, I found it to be actually quite cool. It reads, "If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him." You can see what I mean. Now, I found a lot of different explanations of what this means, but the one I kind of latched onto is that if you reach a point in your journey where you think you have all the answers, you think you know everything, kill that idea, because you probably don't. And I think that's a good, gentle reminder. Now, this is a quartz watch, so uber precise. No need to take a Timegrapher reading today, so let's take a look at these specs. Going over the dimensions, we are looking at a 42 millimeter case with a 51 millimeter lug to lug. And it comes in at a little chunky 14.9 millimeters, and it has 22 millimeter lug width. Going over some of the other specs, it does have a flat sapphire crystal. There is no loom, and they state it is running a Japanese quartz movement, most likely a Miyota, but it does have a whopping 300 meters of water resistance. On the supplied NATO, it comes in at 102 grams. Let's take a look at it on wrist. And here it is on my 7¼ inch wrist on the NATO. I probably would not wear it on the NATO as I don't like the added height NATOs give to watches, but it does look quite handsome with this colorway. Let's take a look at it side by side with some other watches. And here it is next to the Seiko Turtle at 44 millimeters. And as you can see, the Turtle wears small, and I think these two present as being very similar, and they do wear quite similarly on wrist as well. Here it is next to the 41 millimeter Orient Ray. Very similar case design, but a smaller watch. Smaller dial opening, thicker bezel. Lastly, here it is next to the 42.5 millimeter Seiko SKX, somewhere in between the other two. Again, a smaller dial opening, and I just think the Seiko wears smaller than the 7 Sins does. So there you have it, the 7 Sins diver from Core Timepieces. I think this thing is pretty fun. It's a neat concept with an out-of-the-box use of the day window. If you take your watches very seriously, this might not be the watch for you. But if you like to have some fun on your wrist, or maybe if you have sinful tendencies, then you might need this watch. Alright, before I let you go, sneaker check. I'm wearing my Anderson Paak Vans because it matches my green shirt. Alright, that's it. I'm out. If it's not too much trouble, like, subscribe, and come back next time. Peace.